Hello, I'm Representative Connie Bernardi, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Education Finance and Policy Committee in the Minnesota House of Representatives. Pursuant to House Rule 10.01, I call this remote meeting of the House of Higher Education Finance and Policy Committee to order. The committee legislative assistant will take the roll.
Chair Bernardi.
Present.
Bernardi, present. Vice Chair Christensen.
Present.
Christensen, present. Representative O'Neill.
O'Neill, present.
O'Neill, present. Representative Albright.
Present.
Albright, present. Representative Daniels.
Daniels, present.
Daniels, present. Representative Erickson.
Erickson, present.
Erickson, present. Representative Hansen.
Hansen, present.
Hansen, present. Representative Heintzman. Representative Heintzman. Representative Howard.
Present.
Howard, present. Representative Keeler.
Present.
Keeler, present. Representative Cleavorn.
Present.
Cleavorn, present. Representative Kosnick. Representative Kosnick. Representative Kresha.
Present.
Kresha, present. Representative Mason. Representative Mason. Representative Meckland. Representative Meckland. Representative Noor.
Present.
Noor, present. Representative Sandell.
Present.
Sandell, present. Representative Sandsted.
Sandsted, present.
Sandsted, present. Representative Thompson.
Thompson, present.
Thompson, present. Representative Heintzman.
Heintzman, present.
Heintzman, present. Representative Kosnick. Representative Mason. Representative Meckland. And a quorum is present, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion now to approve the minutes for March 2nd?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Representative Stansted moves the approval of the minutes for March 2nd, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion prevails and the minutes for March 2nd, 2021 are approved. Members, we have two bills before us today. We will take up House File 1283 from Representative Koegel, as well as House File 1536 from Representative Wolgamott. We will give each of the authors a chance to introduce their bills, followed by additional testimony. And then we will have time for, we'll make time for a member discussion and questions. The first one today we have up is Representative Wolgamott's bill. And I do want to let members know that we will be having his bill presented and questions and testimony being completed by 3:30. In addition, later in this hearing, Representative Christensen will also be taking over, as I have a bill heard as well later in the committee. So with that, I would like to get started right away with Representative Wolgamott. Welcome back to the committee, one of our former members. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It is good to be back in higher ed. I miss you and I miss the members of our committee. And you know, there's always next biennium. I could be back very soon.
There you go. And I'd like to move that House File 1536 from Representative Wolgamott be moved to be laid I'll move it to lay it over for the possible inclusion and that is House File 1536, just to be clear. We have the bill House File 1536 before us. Representative Wolgamott, please tell us about your bill.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much again, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee members. I'm here today to present House File 1536, which is a textbook affordability bill, which is building off of a very successful program that this committee and this legislature passed last biennium. Madam Chair, the program that we passed has led to a lot of good things, and I want to talk to you about what it's led to and why we need to build off of that success. The bill that we passed in 2019 has led to the development of Z degrees at 6 state colleges throughout Minnesota, saving students an estimated $1.5 million this year alone. And Madam Chair, these numbers will continue into future years and save students even more money as this program expands, as proposed in House File 1536. The legislation that we passed in 2019 has led to dramatic savings to students through the adoption of open educational resources by faculty. And members will be joined by faculty in just a couple minutes who will provide an overview of campus efforts to expand the use of high quality free resources to save students some serious money. And now, Madam Chair, members, we're asking for an increase in funding for this program so that we can do even more to save even more students even more money. In 2019, we got $500,000. Now, given that we have seen the success that this program has for students, we're asking for $1 million this biennium. The expansion of this successful program will help reduce overall costs as the legislature continues to push to reduce tuition costs and restore the state's goal of paying 2/3 the cost of tuition. Madam Chair, I know that you and that members of this committee are dedicated to saving students and families money, and this bill has proven that it can and will reduce costs and create opportunities for faculty to customize their curriculum. No student in Minnesota should have to be denied the opportunity for a higher education because they can't afford their textbook. That's what's in this bill. That's why I'm presenting it to you today. And with that, Madam Chair, with your permission, I would like to turn over to my testifiers so they can share even more information about how successful this program has been for students and faculty at colleges in Minnesota.
Okay, and what I would like to do is I would like to turn over the gavel to Vice Chair Christensen. I hear my name has been called on the other committee, which was not expected at this point. So I will go over there and join you when I am complete. So Representative Vice Chair Christensen, if you could please move on with the further testimony and wrap up this testimony by this bill by 3:30. I would appreciate it. And then start with Representative Koegel's bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Representative Wolgamott, I believe you have 2 people with you today to testify? Okay, I have a list of 4 here. So would you like to introduce your testifiers, Representative?
You go ahead at your discretion, Madam Chair.
Okay, so the first testifier up is Kim Lynch from the Senior System Director of Educational Innovations from Minnesota State.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Christensen. I'm going to share my screen here my name is, Kim Lynch, and I am with Minnesota State, the Senior System Director for Educational Innovations. And I'll go ahead and just share this screen to offer a quick look at the work that we've been doing. I want to start just by thanking you and the entire committee for your work on behalf of Minnesota students. I appreciate the opportunity today to share with you some of the positive results, as Rep. Wolgamott also mentioned, with the 2019 Omnibus Higher Ed Bill, and describe how this current bill can really accelerate that good work. I thought it really important, though, to start with reconnecting why we're doing this in the first place. And I can do that by an example. At this moment, there is a student at St. Cloud State University or Lake Superior College or Ridgewater College, fill in the blank with the one dearest to you. That student is ready to drop out of a course. And it's not because their instructor doesn't know their name. It's not because the coursework is too challenging or involves too much effort. It's not even because their personal life is disrupting their studies in an untenable way. This student is among the roughly 23% of all students who cannot afford the course textbook. This is based on a comprehensive study by Florida Virtual Campus and others supporting that same kind of finding. Put another way, of the roughly 10,000 students at St. Cloud University, approximately 2,300 of them might fail to complete a course because they cannot afford the associated textbook. Zero textbook cost degrees, Z degrees for short, particularly those built from open educational resources, eliminate the cost of expensive textbooks and allow early, ongoing, and equitable access to course instructional materials. This is just a quick reminder of the omnibus bill from last year. It had two really key highlights, one about additional colleges offering the opportunity to earn zero textbook costs or Z degrees with 2 distinct courses in each transfer curriculum area, which is really important to thinking about transfer goals. And it also included opportunities and incentives for faculty and academic departments to identify, review, adapt, author, adopt open educational resources, which are zero cost resources and fit into that Z degree pathway. In fiscal year 2020, Minnesota State offered 6 colleges and 8 campuses the opportunity to offer Associates of Arts degrees with zero textbook cost. To ensure compliance with this bill, 4 colleges began offering Z degrees this past fall 2020, and 2 more will provide Z degrees by fall 2021, exceeding the legislative goal of 3 colleges in less than 12 months and during a global pandemic. So I'm really proud of the work that happened here. Across those 6 colleges, that's 333 courses in 718 sections with no textbook costs. Minnesota State projects that students may save over 1.5 million in those textbook costs per year from this initiative alone, which isn't to say some of the others that you'll hear about today as well. While our accelerated approach to increasing Z degrees is really impressive, it would be misleading to share it without recognizing that we've been building awareness, skills, and abilities both across the system and at local campuses for 6 to 7 years. We have essentially been building a foundation, building readiness to accelerate quickly, and you've been partners with us along the way. This foundational support for open educational resources and faculty development was also noted in the omnibus bill and is part of this new bill, House File 1536, Subdivision 3. This is a success story, so we've been telling it. Colleges often take 3 to 5 years to offer a Z degree. We've had 4 colleges do so in less than 1 year, and we'll have 6 colleges do so in less than 2 years. The state legislator's financial support was critical to the success of open educational resources and Z degree development. Future financial support will ensure that Minnesota State colleges can grow and sustain existing degrees. House File Bill 1536 aptly continues what's worked. So I'd like to close by sharing why this bill at this time is so important. Z degrees offer an organizing framework that is goal-oriented, cohesive, easily understood by students, and supports a college's transfer curriculum. It can also raise visibility across the campus and can bring a range of stakeholders together within a college or university, which is absolutely essential if we want things to sustain and not just happen as an isolated event. Subdivision 3 of the bill provides opportunities for faculty to adopt, adapt, author open ed resources. That's essential to this work and really opens up possibilities beyond cost and accessibility, which are really important, but it can also have an impact positively on teaching and learning. Faculty can adapt materials to course learning outcomes, local context, student experiences that really increases the relevance and subject matter interest in the students who are taking those courses. Again, just to conclude, Minnesota State strongly believes support for this work is critical for ensuring equitable access to course materials, making degree attainment more affordable and therefore possible for all students. In short, I'm just thrilled about the impact this bill can have long-term on affordability, access, and student success. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch, for your testimony. Next up, we have Bobby Bothman, a metadata and emerging technologies librarian at MSU Mankato.
Let's see, and there's my camera. Thank you, Bobby Bothman, Minnesota State University, Mankato, representing IFO as well. And actually my colleague Carrie Miller was going to go, we're going to partner, and she was going to go first. Is that okay?
That's certainly okay. Thank you. Dr. Carrie Miller is Instructional Design and Academic Technology Services at MSU Mankato. You're up next. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Again, Carrie Miller, an instructional designer at Minnesota State University, Mankato. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of how we have been supporting OER efforts on our campus at the university level because of the support that the state and the system office has given us. We've been offering year-long cohort programs for faculty on OER for the last 4 years, in addition to workshops, webinars, and one-on-one support. We've had 23 faculty participate in our year-long cohorts. They were compensated by duty days for this participation, and those faculty have saved students $395,000 so far with the work that they've done. 2 of these cohorts were grant funded by grants that I wrote from the Min-State System Office, and the other 2 have been funded by the IT department and by the Library Service Department. This year, we have an institutional partnership with OpenStax, a large OER publisher, and that has allowed us to discover more faculty using our OER than we even knew about, and it's allowed us to conduct some outreach because of the program that we are a part of with them. We have discovered that our MNSU faculty have been using OpenStax textbooks, and just this academic year have saved students $200,000 for a total to date of almost $700,000 just from using that one set of OER textbooks. About 30% of our course sections at MSU require no textbook at all, and about 17% of our course section require books that cost less than $40. So we're very proud of the work that our faculty have been doing to reduce textbook and material costs. Every semester, we do a large textbook analysis to figure out how much the textbooks are costing students. And we found that about 10 of our courses, based on how many students are enrolled and how expensive the textbook is, cost students about $1 million a semester. So we're actively working to work with those faculty to raise the awareness about textbook affordability and open educational resources and get that number down. And so far, we've been successful in getting 2 of the courses to switch to OER. The big barrier for our faculty is time. Our experience working with these programs has shown that the time it takes to devote to the development and adaptation of OER is extreme. And the best results occur when the faculty can be compensated for that time, either through stipends or sabbaticals or course releases, but it does take money for them because it is a lot of extra work. So the money that we have received from the system office, from the Min-State System Office, has really helped us support those faculty and have made the difference in our numbers that I've been talking about here. So I'm open to any questions, but I know our time is short, so I'll turn it over to Bobby Bothman.
Thank you. And again, Bobby Bothman, Minnesota State University, Mankato. I'm in the library, and I've been partnering with my colleague, Dr. Miller there in IT Solutions, and we've been working with faculty to provide zero-cost alternatives to textbooks through the use of library resources that are supported in part by the resources that we have through Minitex, which I know this committee also supports, and for which we really thank you. And this also relates to subdivision 1H of this particular bill. Library Services provides access to many textbooks through what we call the MAV textbook program, which is a partnership between Barnes & Noble bookstore, the campus bookstore, and the student government to supply textbooks for many of the high enrollment, lower division courses. Currently, we have 67 different textbook titles for a total of 322 copies that can be used by students, and those are heavily used. We have been purchasing ebook versions of known textbooks from the list that Dr. Miller has been curating for us. And right now we've got over 257 titles, and we know that at least 70% of them have been used extensively. For over the last semester or the last year, I believe it is, from the top 3 most used ebooks from 3 different courses, the potential savings to students has added up to almost $14,000. So that's just in one semester. And the library has spent $187 for all 3 of those ebooks together. So we've also been matching existing library-owned books for almost 300 titles. We have been providing research support to identify resources such as book chapters and journal titles to fill needs not covered by textbooks or existing OER. And across our 6 academic colleges, the library resources outside of the textbook program through the student government has been supporting roughly 17% of the courses at this point. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have 2 more testifiers. So if you could, we're running out of time. So if you could keep your testimony, if at all possible, to a couple minutes, that would be great. Next up, we have Dr. Carrie Miller, Maren Woolston, professor at Minnesota Community and Technical College. Welcome to the committee.
Hi, thanks so much, Vice Chair Christensen. And also, I believe Chair Bernardi was back for a second, but I lost her tile in all of the tiles. So yeah. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to speak on behalf of this bill. I am a faculty member at Minneapolis Community and Technical College, and man, getting comments in on a bill like this in a few minutes will be challenging, but just want to say I'm super supportive. I'm a longtime sort of creator of open educational resources. And one of the things I'm really appreciative about with regard to this particular bill is that there's greater attention paid to open educational resources. Because of course, one of the side effects or one of the outcomes of the use of open educational resources is that the resource then is free to students, but there's so much in addition that comes from the use of open educational resources that really benefits our students, which is why long ago, many years ago, I started to realize that it would be appropriate for me in a class that I teach, which is logic. It satisfies a math and logical reasoning goal area for students. It's a required goal area to graduate or to move on to a 4-year institution. It's a very challenging goal area. So I started to write my own book in my own words with the full intent of making it available to students for free, but also so that I could adapt it as I went along, and also partner with my students in writing it, writing portions of it or feeding into the book any sort of contributions, either informally or formally, that they would like to share. And that turned into, that's what this book is right here. It turned into a 350-page book that students can print. They also have it available to them digitally. In any case, this is sort of the start of my very kind of passionate involvement with open educational resources. Was writing my own, and this started in 2007, so that was about 13 years ago, before it was kind of on even my radar, the term open educational resources. I just started doing it because I felt it was important to do for students, and then later on sort of understood the whole open licensing element of it, which is really about sharing. So the free piece is great and it's awesome for students, but the open piece, really what's the power of that is the power to collaborate with our students, to share the resources that we create with others, to utilize resources that others have created. And so I'm so glad to see that more language about open educational resources is built into this bill. I'll give you an example. This book that I wrote, what I'm now working on with my students is what might be called an open pedagogical practice of collaborating with my students, where they can opt in to do a final project where they can basically do anything that they wish to sort of fold a resource into the course materials to then be of benefit to students that take the course in the future. So a few of my students that speak Somali and other students that speak Spanish have started to suggest creating translations of this textbook that they would then also, with me, open license to help other students down the road that might also be, kind of struggling with the subject matter just because it's a tricky course, better understand it because they're reading it both in English and then another language that they understand as well. And that's something that goes well beyond, the value of free, but really is empowering for our students because
Excuse me, Ms. Woolston, but
yes.
I'm sorry, we're running out of time.
Okay, great. Just super support this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair Bernardi, do you want to take over or should I continue?
You can continue.
Okay. Next up, we have Axel Kylander, is a testifier. Is Axel here? I
Yes.
see you, Axel. Welcome.
Thank you. Chair Christensen, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Axel Kylander, and I am the Vice President of Lead MN. I'm here to testify in support of House File 1536 and continued support for an expansion of Z degrees. And thank you, Representative Wolgamott, for introducing this important piece of student-centered legislation. In pursuit of their degrees and dreams, students take on the considerable challenge of paying for college. Paying high tuition gets them in the door, but then they are struck with an additional heavy expense, textbooks. The U.S. Public Interest Research Group reported disturbing findings on this issue last year, including that 66% of students had to skip buying textbooks because of the cost, and 11% of students have skipped meals and gone hungry just to pay for these books. Z degrees provide an alternative, one I've seen the benefits of firsthand. I'm a student at Anoka Ramsey Community College, working on my second associate's degree in communication studies. This is a Z degree, meaning I haven't spent a cent on textbooks in my time working on it. The OERs offered in my Z degree reduced my cost of attendance, and have always met and consistently exceeded the quality of traditional textbooks. OERs can be constantly adapted to be relevant to any given course. That means that in addition to relief for students in not having to pay exorbitant costs for reading materials, there's also always a genuine usefulness to what is being read, because the material is tailored specifically for the class it is being read in. And as you've already heard, the numbers speak for themselves. Even the proliferation of OERs from 2017 to 2019 alone saved students approximately $3.2 million, and that's just what's been self-reported by faculty. Other states have had proven success with this investment as well. When North Dakota invested $110,000 in OERs, they saw 1.1 million in student savings, literally a tenfold return on their investments. Our savings will only continue to grow with greater state investment. This is, simply put, an excellent policy, and that's why Lead MN has strongly advocated for expanded use of OERs for years. Z degrees meet an urgent need for students, playing a key role in making college more affordable. The cost of investing in Z degree programs is far, far exceeded by their results, and by saving costs for students, these programs save costs for and brighten the future of the whole state. HF 1536 signals an important and worthwhile step on the path to that future. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Kylander. Now, is there anyone else out there that would like to testify on House File 1536? Seeing none, members, is there further discussion on House File 1536? First up, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my questions will be focused on the text of the bill, as well as some larger Representative Wolgamott. Representative Wolgamott, the first question I have for you today is, with relevance to this program, why wouldn't you offer a Z degree program, or in that regard, textbooks across the higher ed program at zero cost to participants if this is such a good program, and this is one of the prohibitive factors in obtaining a associate or bachelor's degree?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Albright, that's certainly a good idea. I guess I'd be open to working with you on something like that as well. There's no, I guess, perfect way to go about, no one way end all be all to go about making textbooks more affordable. But Madam Chair, through permission, I'll defer to my testifier, Ms. Lynch, to provide further insights on why this is the approach that we decided to take.
Vice Chair Christensen, this is Kim Lynch. Should I respond?
Not sure. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Lynch. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question, Rep. Albright. I think that's exactly where we're hoping to head, but it's a progression. We have a very complex system of courses and programs and faculty, and in places where some of these materials just aren't yet to the point that they work for those organizations. So this is really a progressive way to build that community, to build that work, and to move toward that effort. And certainly our students are able to take courses from a variety of places, and they often do. And I think that some may be doing that, but we also think it's really important to keep everyone along with us as we go and to build that work progressively and in a way that actually makes sense based on all the considerations faculty have when they're looking at the materials that they use.
Madam Speaker.
Yes,
Madam Chair.
Representative Albright.
Madam Chair, Representative Wolgamott, who ultimately is the person who pays for this program?
Madam Chair, we're asking for the state to do that. It's an investment by the state of Minnesota.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Albright. And we're down to
I
D
understand,
time
Madam
now,
Chair.
so if we
Madam
could go as
Chair,
quickly as possible.
I will just finish up. Madam Chair, Representative Wolgamott, you are correct that the state is paying for this. And in two regards, the state is made up of many people that work very, very hard for the income that they receive. And to suggest that they now are responsible for the payment of books for other people, you can make an argument either way. But I think it's a sad indictment that we need to expend additional state dollars on behalf of a program when we're already funding both MNSCU and the University of Minnesota and independent colleges to support degree granting programs. And that should include the support of our students as they acquire and utilize these books. I think it's a sad indictment on our system that we have to come up with what we've heard yesterday with programs that help mentor higher ed folks through, as well as today with just the cost of books themselves. Open architecture, as you know, came across a number of years ago with regard to programming. And I find it troublesome that we are now creating a program that expends even more money on behalf of our state to fund our students to get an education when we are already doing that through a number of other means. And I look forward to your response.
Thank you, Representative Albright. Representative O'Neill, we were overdue, so if you could keep it to a minute or so, is that possible?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I am the lead, and so I hope you give me some respect for that. I just have some simple questions about the math. My question is, we didn't really see a spreadsheet, so we provided $500,000, and now the ask is to double that to $1 million. And I know that there was a report, but it was a little bit vague as to how the money was used. And I'm wondering if the author of the bill could report back, were there increased FTEs or FTE equivalents? Did we have to hire new people to accomplish this? Or did we pay faculty to do special projects? Or exactly how is this money used? Did we have to do different IT? I guess I'm still not clear as to what exactly we spent $500,000 to do. I can see the output, but I don't know exactly how we got the input. So if you could, Chair, let Representative Wolgamott let us know exactly kind of, the numbers of where the money went and why we're doubling the amount.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative O'Neill. I appreciate it. Rep. Krisha, you're up next. If you could keep it really short, that would be great.
Madam Chair, I will respond.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rep. Wolgamott.
Thank you. I would defer to my testifier, Ms. Lynch.
Yes, I would just respond, Representative O'Neill, that we absolutely can provide that greater detail, but just in general, the primary amount of that money really goes to faculty who need to adapt both the materials and the courses to meet their needs, because they aren't out of the box exactly the way they can use them. And so that was the primary place through the campuses that those funds were spent, but we can provide a more detailed information on that.
Madam Chair, so
go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to be clear, are we paying faculty additional, like a bonus or like an additional salary to accomplish this? I guess I'm just not clear what that means. If you could just respond to that.
Absolutely, it depends on the campus, because what we did is we offered grants to the campus to achieve the outcome, and then they put forward a budget calculation for how they would achieve that. And because our campuses have very different practices from one to another, we didn't really dictate exactly what that would look like. So it might be different from one to another, depending on what their particular need was and how their practices that aligned with it. So as I said, we have those budget spreadsheets for each institution and how they executed the work to achieve that Z degree, and be happy to gather that information and share it.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that since we are a finance committee, it's incredibly important to actually talk about the finances and to talk about where did the money go, and if they're going to double the ask, where's the money going? And we didn't hear that. And I think that that's incredibly important and the reason that we're here. So thank you, Madam Chair.
I agree, Rep. O'Neill, and this is being laid over, so there still will be time to talk about that. Rep. Krisha, can you be really quick, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to the bill author and the testifiers, do the students who use the OER in their class as their degree, is there any difference in progress towards degrees compared with similar students who use other materials? Have you seen any change in that?
Representative Wolgamott.
Madam Chair, I'll defer to my testifier, Ms. Lynch.
Ms. Lynch?
Yes, thank you, Rep. Krisha. Yes, because we are just really very early in this, we haven't really had even a full year of actual students who have been enrolled and taken courses within that Z degree. I can't speak specifically to our own data. However, we have found that that is consistent, that for students using open educational resources in particular, they have either been more successful or equally successful. We have seen no studies where they've been less successful than students who have paid for their textbooks. So it's, again, it varies from community to community, from institution to institution, but the outcomes of this kind of work have been overall quite positive.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lynch, and thank you, Representative.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I have plenty of questions.
The bill is being laid over and we will be able to address some of the questions later.
So,
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, with all due respect, so you're going to gavel me down so I don't get any more time, is that correct?
Representative Wolgamott, do you have something to say?
Oh, Madam Chair, I was just going to let you and Representative Krisha know that my testifier and I'd be more than happy to keep the committee schedule going. Representative Krisha, we'd be more than happy to take as much time as necessary to answer all of your questions. Make sure you get those answers, whether here or after the hearing.
Madam Chair?
Representative Krisha.
I don't want to be disrespectful of Chair, but you have an hour for another bill. I would think that if you can't get through another bill in an hour and you're going to gavel down questions from the minority, that seems a bit inappropriate. I mean, you have the votes, you can do whatever you want.
Representative Krisha, I am the chair.
Madam Chair, I have the floor. If you want to do this, I'll make a motion to recess. I'll make a motion to table. I can run this out 45 minutes. You could have given me 5 minutes for questions. How would you like this to go, Madam Chair? You choose.
Okay, you won, Rep. Krisha. Go ahead with more questions.
Madam Chair, I have an election certificate, which entitles me to use the committee time to ask questions. It's not win or losing.
I've given you the time, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the bill testifiers and to the bill author, how has this changed for the bookstores? You've moved the costs from the publishers now to an open source, and how has this affected on-campus bookstores? Has there been an issue with that?
Representative Wolgamott.
Madam Chair, I'll defer to my testifier, Ms. Lynch.
Ms. Lynch?
Yes, Representative Krisha, it's as you might suspect, like many of my answers, it's inconsistent from one institution to the other. I could give you an example of Central Lakes, where in fact the bookstore was incredibly instrumental in the work that was developed there. And they were the first college to have a Z degree. And it was partly because the bookstore saw the end goal, and they worked very hard to offer for students the ability to print the digital resources and receive sort of some revenue from that, and have been very supportive. There's others, and frankly, some of our institutions where they work with a third party where it's a little bit more difficult because they don't necessarily see the direct benefit in the same ways as a homegrown bookstore does at the institution. So it's a very complicated answer. And again, if there's some, I could gather some additional information to try to address that more fully, but it's going to vary from one place to another.
Representative Krisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last question. So you mentioned to the testifier, you mentioned printing this off. How has this been able to accommodate students that may have different needs, whether that's sight or reading abilities? How has that been accomplished?
Representative Wolgamott.
Madam Chair, I would defer to my testifier, Ms. Lynch.
Okay, Ms. Lynch.
Rep. Krisha, yes, that's an excellent question. One of the investments that faculty make when they're working with open educational resources is some digital accessibility efforts. As part of much of the work that we support is helping faculty both identify resources that are already accessible, or if they're not already accessible because they're open, they're able to work with them to make them so. So the digital accessibility piece has actually been an incredible plus of working with open educational resources. The student doesn't need to print them, but some cases we have students who work with their bookstore and say, I would like a print version because I'm more comfortable with that, and then are able to do so. And they can also accommodate needs in that way. So for instance, they could do larger print for students who might need that. And there are a few other ways with the actual print media that they can work with that as well.
Representative Krisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the excellent answers. It's nice to actually have that discussion and get that on the record because we are a public institution. Representative Wolgamott, I think you have the makings of a good bill, and I wish you luck.
Next, members, is there any further discussion on file 1536? Representative Wolgamott, do you have closing statements?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, members, for hearing this bill. Again, we know that this has had success in the past, and by creating further investment, we can save even more students, even more money, and make sure that we accomplish that goal of making sure that all Minnesotans who choose to go to college are able to afford it. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, members. I urge your support for this bill as you consider it for inclusion in your omnibus bill. Thank you.
I will renew my motion that House File 1536 be laid over for possible inclusion in higher education finance omnibus bill. The bill is laid over. Our final bill today is House File 1283 from Representative Koegel. I will move that HF 1283 be laid over for possible inclusion. Rep. Koegel has an author's amendment labeled A1. May I have a motion to put the bill in the form that the author wants?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Representative Bernardi, Chair Bernardi offers the author's amendment to House File 1283 be labeled A1. Does everyone have the amendment? Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Albright.
Madam Chair, I know that in past committee hearings, it has been custom and usage to bypass the explanation of an author's amendment. But I do think that it's appropriate to communicate to the members of the committee what entails or what is included in the author's amendment. We still take a vote, whether it be orally or on the record regarding an author's amendment. I think it's customary going forward that the author of the amendment explain what it is before we take a blind vote on it.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Koegel, do you want to explain the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'd be happy to explain the amendment. So what this amendment does is it actually just moves the funding for this the addiction medicine fellowship program to an ongoing appropriation. It's a fairly small amount of money that trains 3 doctors in addiction medicine. And so just want to make, serving on the Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council, we know how vital it is to have our doctors trained in addiction medicine. And so this is a small investment that we can make to make sure that we have trained doctors here in our state.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Koegel. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Koegel, how much is this increasing? And I believe when I read the brief, it was training 4 doctors. Have you changed it so the amount is only now funding 3? If you could tell us for sure if it's 3 or 4 and how much is the total amount increase?
Thank you, Madam
Representative Koegel.
It goes from, we changed it from $240,000 to $275,000. And I do have a testifier who is actually runs the program. So I might have gotten the number wrong. She would have a better idea.
Chair.
Would you like to call your Representative O'Neill?
Just a quick clarification that is 240,000 per year, not for the biennium. Is that correct? And you're increasing it to 275,000 per year each year of the biennium. Is that correct, Representative Koegel?
I have the language in line 1 or page 1, line 7, delete 240 and insert 275. I need to find, when you have a million tabs open, it's hard to find what you actually need, huh? It says, and insert $275,000 in fiscal year 2023. Of course, you never have the tab open you need, right?
Madam Chair, I believe Nathan Hopkins has his hands up. He might be able to clarify here.
Okay, Mr. Hopkins.
Madam Chair and members, the A1 amendment increases the funding for this appropriation from $240,000 to $275,000 per fiscal year. It also makes it $275,000 for both fiscal years in the biennium, which would create an ongoing base moving forward. The bill as introduced is just a one-time appropriation. So the amendment makes this an ongoing appropriation, increases the appropriation from $240,000 in the fiscal year to $275,000 in the fiscal year. It doesn't affect the number of physicians that are trained under the appropriation. It's still up to 4.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, if going forward, if we could actually be clear as to what we're voting on, being remote, it is incredibly challenging, and everybody watching, I'm sure, would appreciate also knowing what it is that we're changing. It should be just a very simple explanation, and I apologize that it took this much to get to this point, but I think it's important to have these things on the record before we vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for not having my tabs up. It's hard when you don't have the paper in front of you.
We're good. We got it out. So, so now we will, would those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it.
No.
Have it. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. We have before us House File 1283. Representative Koegel, please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm proud to author House File 1283, which funds the only addiction medicine fellowship program in the state of Minnesota. This program is housed between the University of Minnesota's Department of Psychiatry and Hennepin County's Medical Health Center Addiction Medicine Department. There are 21 million Americans who suffer from substance use disorders, and there's a lack of specialty trained addiction medicine physicians to treat them. Only 11% of people suffering with substance use disorders are being treated for their addiction. And in Minnesota, there are 32 rural counties that don't have a single provider that has obtained federal approval to prescribe certain medications for their treatment. This 12-month program trains physicians to become experts in prevention, clinical evaluation, treatment, and ongoing care for those with addiction and ongoing care of those with addiction using evidence-based therapies. Up to 4 physicians can become trained at the cost of $275,000 per year. Continuing to fund the Addiction Medicine Fellowship Program will strengthen the healthcare workforce and incentivize specialists to train and stay in Minnesota. Minnesotans deserve the best, most highly trained addiction specialists. The demand for these specialists is growing with the increase of substance use and overdoses during the pandemic. I ask for your support in training more experts in the field of addiction right here in Minnesota, and vote to support House File 1283. With me, I have Dr. Sheila Specker, who is the director of the program, and have also included a one-pager and letter of support from HCMC's Chief of Addiction Medicine and NAMI. So with that, I will turn it over to my testifier.
Dr. Specker, please tell us your name and continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Sheila Specker, and I'm a practicing addiction psychiatrist at the University of Minnesota and the program director of the Minnesota Addiction Medicine Fellowship, which is shared between Hennepin County Medical Center's Addiction Medicine Department, the University of Minnesota's Department of Psychiatry, and the VA Medical Center. As Representative Koegel said, we're the only fellowship in the state that trains physicians in this specialty that intersects with many other disciplines, including public health, psychology, social work, psychiatry, primary care, and others. We currently have 3 fellows that come from primary care, which has been the typical discipline that we train. We have increased the number of our fellows from typically 1 or 2 to 3, which may sound like it's an insignificant amount, but our fellows go out and train other physicians, so their influence is quite broad. Also, as Representative Koegel said, that there are 21 million Americans with an addiction, the lack of trained specialists is one factor in why only 1 in 10 persons with a substance use problem receive treatment. And in Minnesota, only about a third of the counties have no physicians who have this federal approval to prescribe a highly effective medication, Suboxone, for the treatment of opioid use disorder. We also know that with the COVID pandemic, the rates of opioid and other substance use disorders has greatly increased, as have number of deaths from such substances as fentanyl. This 12-month program began in 1982, and I trained in this program many years ago. And it trains physicians to become experts in prevention, clinical evaluation, treatment, and ongoing care of persons with addiction. Fellows are trained to treat patients throughout the lifespan, starting with prenatal and adolescence, and through adulthood using our evidence-based therapies. These are medication-assisted treatments such as Suboxone, methadone, and naltrexone in and outpatient therapies, and treatment for co-occurring psychiatric problems. Settings include inpatient, hospital-based care, outpatient clinics, and programs, and now using telehealth to reach all parts of Minnesota. We train physicians to be leaders and educators of other physicians. Directing Hennepin County's Project ECHO, which is an outreach, is one example of a key role that our graduates take. Nearly all of our graduates have or are practicing in Minnesota. Some are in academic settings like Hennepin and the university and VA, and train physicians, and others are in rural communities, underserved areas. The program recently obtained accreditation by the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, which also recently approved this increase in the number of positions because of the great need to expand the workforce. And fellowships across the country have mushroomed because of this. Each year, the program struggles to cover stipends due to the lack of sustainable funding. The cost to treat one physician is about $91,000 per year, which is how we obtained ultimately the $275,000. We appreciate past support for the legislature, and we actively pursue any other avenues of funding, including grants, including GME funds. The program is a statewide resource that really expands the workforce of physicians trained in addiction and hence can reach populations most in need of addiction care. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Specker. Representative Koegel, do you have any other testifiers?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other testifiers? Okay, members, is there any further discussion on House File? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Representative Koegel for bringing this bill forward. The issue that is being addressed through this bill is so critical across the state of Minnesota. There is just a tremendous value in what you are attempting to do here, and I appreciate the time, the effort, and the work that you have put in on this. I know it probably resonates with you personally, and I'm grateful for the work you've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll direct my questions to the author of the bill. Representative Koegel, what would prevent a university from offering this in and of its own budget?
Representative Koegel.
Madam Chair, Representative Albright, right now, I believe that, and maybe Dr. Specker can also correct me if I'm wrong, and I know Tara Erickson is also here on the call representing HCMC, but I believe the issue is that they are offering it right now, but it's just that we want to make sure that they get a stable source of predictable funding because the need is so great. I mean, over the past year and a half, I've traveled the state when we were able to travel the state on the Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council. And the thing that we hear over and over is the lack of qualified practitioners in this space. And so we really need to make sure that we're training these folks. And as Dr. Specker said, then those doctors go back into their community and train more people. And so, it's so vital because I don't know if anybody has seen the data lately, but there has been an uptick in deaths and overdoses, and mainly due to the synthetic drugs that are out there. And it's dangerous. And I know when we were looking for treatment facilities for my brother, we couldn't find any in the state for him. And so he ended up having to go out to California to get his treatment. And, thank God he's nearly 5 years sober now. But, this is a lifelong battle that we need more physicians trained in this area to recognize, prevent, educate, and help people recover and make their lives, as productive as possible. And I don't know if any of the testifiers wanted to address that, Dr. Specker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. The funding for training is not from the university. Typically, it comes through CMS funds, and the GME funds that come through the institution do not typically fund fellowships. So they fund residence slots, and typically there are not enough. There's not enough funding. So we have been in the position that our fellowship is that we don't receive GME funding. And another factor is that we also are at Hennepin County Medical Center, so the university wouldn't have any authorization for that, if that helps.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative.
Madam Chair, and to the author of the bill, I appreciate your personal involvement in this, and I certainly empathize with the circumstances that you've gone through. but that did not answer my question in the nature that I was hoping for, but I'll move on. My following question and the final one, Representative Koegel, is last year and the years before that, we spent an inordinate amount of time negotiating and settling with the opioid manufacturers for compensation for such circumstances as your relative went through. Why wouldn't it be appropriate to utilize those resources as opposed to ask for additional resources out of the general fund to do the exact purposes for which that legislation was signed into law? Thank you.
Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Albright. Well, we had the, right now, we're going through the granting process with the ORAC committee. And so that funding isn't going to be available until, I believe, late in the summer. And so this is an immediate need. And so we really want to make sure that, we get these physicians trained. And that's also a competitive grant process. And it really, the focus of that council has been on innovative ways to treat opioid use disorder. And so, this is a proven program that is completely worthy of our investment and the people that it'll be helping.
Representative Albright.
Madam Chair, I wish the author luck in the future. But as Representative O'Neill and the lead on this committee said very capably, we need to be vigilant about the finances that we appropriate for any endeavor. And I think sometimes we think that a new program sometimes supersedes the ones that we passed into law over the past several biennia. And I would just hold this committee fast to the assertion that another dollar spent in a new program does not always provide for success, when we should be emphasizing the programs that are already in place and making sure that those work well before we move on to a next program. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, how long does it take to train a doctor? So how long is the fellowship? And then also, how many counties have addiction medicine embedded? No, so how many places can you go in the state that actually have addiction medicine? Thank you.
Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think Dr. Specker would be the best to answer this.
Dr. Specker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative O'Neill. There are, in terms of specialists in the state of Minnesota and how many counties, we have trained approximately 60 individuals, 60 physicians through the years, and they're dispersed amongst Minnesota, but I think many are still concentrated in the Twin Cities area. There are physicians who have achieved passing their board exam, but I don't consider that the same as being trained. So the physicians come after having completed a residency program, and typically this would be family medicine or internal medicine, and it's a one-year fellowship, excuse me. So 12 months to hone in on the addiction medicine skills.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That helps put this into perspective, because Representative Koegel talked about the urgency. And so I just wanted to see how long it takes to train somebody, how long it takes them to go through a fellowship. Is it a year or 2 or 3 or 5, or, what are we talking about? And so also that helps us understand the need. So it's 91,000, as they said, per fellowship. So that's per individual doctor being trained. And this appropriation then would be 3 per year, because that amount is 275,000 per year. So that would train 6. I'm just trying to do the math, because again, we are a finance committee, and it's really important to understand what is the ask. This is now going into the base appropriation. So this is if this passes, this would be in the base. So we're talking about, at this level, training 3 new addiction physicians each year going forward at 275,000. So I think it's really important. I would remind the members of the committee and also testifiers that come, if anyone else is listening, that when you come before a finance committee, it's really important to be very clear as to what this money is for, what it's been used for in the past, and how it moves forward. So those parts are really important for the public to hear, again, especially as we are all remote. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Representative Cleaborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this could either be to Representative Koegel or to Ms. Erickson. It's my understanding that these dollars are not just to train the specific fellows. The fellows are in fact trained, but if I heard correctly earlier, it's also train the trainer. So these dollars will have a larger ripple effect than just the 3 fellows who would be trained in a given year. It was my understanding correct there?
Representative Koegel. Or
Madam
I guess Ms. Erickson, I'm sorry. Ms. Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, my name is Tara Erickson, and I'm the contract lobbyist for Hennepin County Medical Center. I guess how to explain this a little bit is that some of the fellows, the residents who have been trained through this program, are now going out and doing things like there's been a lot of success in Representative Creech's district with Project Echo. We have a Project Echo series at Hennepin County Medical Center, and that is where we have providers, specialists helping with other rural providers on addiction. Like trying to help them figure out how to treat their patients within their communities. There's just been tremendous success. We are doing another series right now on prenatal and substance abuse issues. And so the person who leads that right now was a resident in Dr. Specker's program. His name is Dr. Brian Grahan. He's been fantastic, and he is now leading that program. And just doing really great work across the state.
Representative Cleaborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll just close with thanking Representative Koegel for bringing this bill forward. Having been an advocate for children and having been an advocate for families for many years, I appreciate the fact that you are uplifting our families and helping them move away from addiction and getting the needs that they have met. This is for all of us who read our email. There isn't a single representative in the House who hasn't heard the story of constituents who've been impacted by this addiction. And as you said earlier, Representative Koegel, it has grown in our state, and we are all doing our very best to help alleviate the plight of addiction. So I would just like to thank you for your hard work. I know it's a very difficult piece of work to do, but I really admire your dedication to uplifting our families and making these strategic investments in our families. Thank you.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Cleaborn, I feel like it's been more confusing. So to be clear, I just want to ask the author, the intent of this bill is not to train the trainer, it's to train physicians who organically on occasion have become a trainer, but the intent of this fellowship isn't to train trainers. Is that correct, Representative Koegel?
Representative Koegel.
Madam Chair and Representative O'Neill, yeah, it's to train the physicians in addiction medicine. And the organic process happens as well.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's just very clear, again, because we're all remote and people are listening, I just want to make sure that what we're talking about is training 3 physicians in addiction medicine per year. That's what the ask is, and that's an ongoing appropriation. So just to be very clear, it's not training a trainer, although that may happen, just organically, but that's not the intent of this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Cleaborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative O'Neill. I appreciate your clarifying, but I would like to just say that we've all had this legislation before us, and we've read the materials, we've read our research briefs, and while we may have a very clear understanding, I do appreciate the fact that you brought that to the attention of our listeners today. So thank you, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Representative. Members, is there any further discussion? Representative Koegel, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for this discussion. I think this is really important. Speaking from the money side of it, treatment will save the state money. If we can get people, in recovery and treatment programs, and then they're less likely to, need government assistance. They're less likely to be incarcerated. They can go on and, continue education or get a job. And so, the more that we can make people aware of addiction and how to treat it and how, we can really get folks into recovery, that's a good thing. And if I'd invite folks to sit down and I've had this is a personal issue to me. Addiction medicine is personal. The opioid epidemic is personal to me. I often wonder about how my life would be different if, when I was a 12-year-old suffering from herniated discs in my back, if there had been some alternative to sticking me on pain medications, and how that would have affected my family going forward and how that would have affected my brother's drug use. And so I think the more that we, can train our physicians and really get a good understanding of how addiction affects every one of us, and how we can give our physicians the tools they need to help us, is a good thing. And so I really hope that this bill moves forward, and I urge support. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Koegel. It's a good bill. Thanks for bringing it. So hearing no further discussion, I will renew my motion that HF 1283 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in the Higher Education Finance Omnibus Bill. So the bill is laid over.
Thank you very much.
And with that, folks, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.